Number 10. Destroy worlds. Hulk is so powerful that he could literally punch a world into dust. We've actually seen this happen more than once with Hulk, but it's also been alluded to and suggested as well on Earth. When Hulks fight each other, the world is riddled with seismic activity, proving how devastating their blows can truly be to the people around them and even the planet they happen to be fighting on. At one point when Thor and Hulk were fighting, they were moved to another world and place by Valkyrie, made for epic gladiatorial combat so that they could fight safely without Thor having to worry about, causing massive amounts of damage to the people or the places around them. Hulks fighting Hulks is dangerous, and we've even seen planets basically fully transformed as a result of massive Hulk fights. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, be sure to let us know you love us by clicking that like button. And if you like the Hulk, who doesn't like the Hulk? Smash the like button. That's what the Hulk would say. Number 9. Untouchable. Well, I should say Bruce Banner is untouchable, although I feel like also this would be by extension the Hulk as well, as long as Bruce can sense he's in danger. If he has time to react, this makes him virtually unharmable because as soon as his body gets stressed, the Hulk appears in his place. And the Hulk is a lot more durable than Bruce. Now, of course, just because this is a power of his doesn't mean that there aren't always ways around it, because we definitely have seen Bruce harmed before. If Bruce was left completely unaware or was able to control his transformations, you could probably harm him, but otherwise the Hulk pretty much sees to it that no harm comes to his other form of Bruce Banner by default, which is a pretty cool superpower to have. At any time you're in danger, instead of having to deal with, said danger or being harmed, you just transform into basically a big green fighting machine. Although I don't know, I feel like I wouldn't want to worry about the damage. I guess that's the thing that Bruce has to live with all the time. He's like, I just transformed into the Hulk, oh boy, what am I coming back to? Eesh. Number 8. Powerful lungs. Hulk is a powerful dude, and of course with all the power that he bolsters, in addition to his sheer size, he's basically like a brick house, Hulk also has insanely powerful lungs. We've seen him stagger people in the past simply by exhaling, but his inhales are also pretty powerful too. At one point he used his massive lung size to inhale a bunch of toxic gas that was surrounding people in order to protect them. Unfortunately, while he was successful in saving them from the gas, it kind of cost him his form as Hulk because he became so weakened by the gas, which was also kind of killing him, that he transformed back into Bruce Banner and ends up collapsing. We don't typically get to see the Hulk using his lungs so effectively in the comics, but it's pretty cool to think that this is a power that Hulk could just use at any time. It's also been implied that he can hold his breath for longer because of his increased lung capacity. Now, this was suggested in the crossover comic between Hulk and Batman, so it kind of exists in a not necessarily just a 616 reality, and it is a deduction of Batman's. It's not like confirmed. Although, I gotta say, I think it's a weird even suggestion because I don't think that's necessarily how lungs work. The bigger they are, the longer you can hold your breath. I'm not so sure about that. Maybe in comics that's how lungs work. Number 7. Building portals. Many people don't think of the Hulk as a supremely intelligent being, but then they forget that technically this hero is made up of different personas. One is Doc Green. Doc Green himself is known for being one of the more intelligent Hulk personas, and he even at one point was able to portal around, effectively teleporting. He made these portals using science, of course, not magic or anything like that, although a magical Hulk would actually be super interesting and super cool. And granted, these portals weren't, quite so quick to summon or create as, let's say, someone like Magic or Nightcrawler. Well, Hulk could summon them pretty quickly, but couldn't really close them as fast. This Hulk isn't a teleporter in terms of combat use, but Doc Green's portals don't necessarily make him a teleporter in terms of, their ability to be used in combat, but still, using portals to take you to other places or even other worlds, I think that's pretty impressive. And not something many of us think of when we think Hulk. We don't usually think portals. Number 6. Tunnel powers. I love this one. Hulk, oddly enough, can actually dig a tunnel like a superpowered mole or worm. He's basically like a drill underground. It's crazy. He can tunnel underground at an alarming rate simply by pushing down into the ground. It seems like his sheer strength and force allows him to burrow easily and speed through the dirt and rock, even blasting out of the ground and into the air to surprise his enemies. Honestly, if the Hulk just busted out of the ground, I would be very shocked. If that happened right now, I'd be like, whoa, where'd you come from? Never mind sandworms. Apparently, in the Marvel Universe, we have found our own equally deadly version in the Hulk. Although this doesn't come up as much in modern comics, it has happened in the past before, and I personally think we should bring these epic tunnel powers back for Hulk. Also, if you do bring these powers back, then please send him over to Toronto. That would be helpful. We need a few more lines on our subway system, and having the Hulk here to help out would probably speed up and help reduce the cost of that project. So yeah, send him this way.
Halfway through into number 5, Amnesia Kisses. This also explains quite a lot. In the 1980 film Superman 2, an intriguing aspect of Superman's powers is revealed. Through his kisses, apparently he has the ability to selectively erase memories from another person's mind. In a memorable scene, Clark Kent, portrayed by Christopher Reeves, uses this power to make Lois Lane forget the events of the entire movie. The connection between kissing and memory manipulation is left unexplained. The film doesn't really delve into the mechanics of the ability because it only uses it once and then no one ever mentions it again, but I'd be convinced that it just kinda helps his mind control thing, because when you're kissing someone, you're in quite a vulnerable place. Nevertheless, the outcome is questionable, and Superman's kisses have the power to alter and remove memories apparently, but it serves a narrative purpose It's used to resolve certain story elements, but like, I don't know. It keeps Clark's identity secret from Lois, but like, what the hell? In it for Super Dance. Superman's abilities also extend beyond super strength. He has demonstrated finesse and grace on the dance floor when the situation demands it. In a display of his versatile skills, he utilized his strength and smooth moves to create vibrations, effectively disarming a set of concealed bombs. Remarkably, he accomplished this feat without attracting attention or compromising his secret identity, which is why he was doing the dance, because he didn't want to reveal that he was Superman, but still, it's an unexpected combination of power and dancing that actually kind of showcases Superman's adaptability and resourcefulness. Like, he was harnessing his strength and translating it into dance moves, and used that to generate the necessary vibrations to neutralize hidden bombs. Like, it allows him to maintain his cover, and he handled the dangerous situation discreetly. God, that's... Getting close to the end, into number 3, Symbol Toss. Superman 2, yet again one of the standout Superman films, does introduce some peculiar scenes. Like I said before, you know, the whole kissing thing. But in this movie, General Zod and his cohorts, Non and Ursa, attempt to conquer the world, leading to an intense battle in Fortress of Solitude. During the confrontation though, Superman surprises everyone by tearing the emblem off his suit and hurling it at Non, naring the Kryptonian in like a cellophane trap. The fact that you're able to use the symbol in such a manner is just one of the most surreal and possibly even debated moments in Superman lore, especially because he throws it, but like in that scene the symbol is still on his chest. The mechanics of it remain ambiguous, and that's probably for the best, but I don't know. It looks like it's made out of plastic, but also it's freaking cling film, and then it gains strength enough to detain Non, and then it just vanishes when he's done with it. I don't know where they were going with that one, but hey, if it works, it works. But ultimately, into number 2, Magic Glasses. In a peculiar turn of events depicted in 1978's Superman number 330, it's revealed that Superman's Kryptonian biology, when combined with the glass of his eyeglasses, possesses the uncanny ability to hypnotize individuals, making them perceive Clark Kent as an entirely different person, distinct from the Man of Steel. That's why he doesn't need to change his whole face. This unique power could also be referred to as like secret identity vision. However, this storyline involving the magic glasses and their hypnotic effects didn't really gain much traction because, I mean, the explanation was kind of unnecessary and didn't really make sense. It quickly faded into obscurity because of that, being rarely mentioned or revisited. And then to further distance it, the Crisis on Infinite Earths Absolute Edition provided a comprehensive overview of the multiverse, explicitly designating this story as taking place on an alternate Earth. But it was still a thing. It was still a thing in the main canon for a while, and explains why he didn't need to change his face. And finally, into number 1, Caller ID. Superman once possessed an ability that can only be described as both a secret and utterly useless. Through use of his telepathic powers, the Man of Steel showcased the capacity to identify callers on the other end of a telephone line. In today's world where caller ID is a standard feature, this power is completely obsolete. It's like akin a slingshot to kill Darkseid. It held some relevance during that time because technology was less advanced. There was no caller ID, and telepathic feats actually seemed like it made sense, but as the world progressed and communication tech evolved, didn't really need it anymore. There you go, guys. If you want to know more about weird powers from your favorite superheroes, be sure to click the video that's popping up on screen because these can get hella weird. And it's 10 resistance to telepathy. Psychics in the Marvel Universe are undeniably real, with a significant number of mutants possessing psychic abilities, including members of the X-Men. Professor X, the X-Men founder, is a powerful psychic, and Jean Grey initially displayed telekinesis before unlocking her own psychic powers. Rachel Grey, Jean Grey's daughter from an alternate universe, is also a psychic and frequently joins the X-Men, but despite the prevalence of psychics, some heroes in the universe receive training to defend themselves against psychic attacks and probing, such as Wolverine, who was given psionic shields by Charles Xavier to enhance his resistance. While these defenses are not foolproof, they offer valuable protection, especially when there are so many damn psychics. Notably, even some villains have safeguards against psychics, like Magneto and Juggernaut, who has that helmet that prevents Professor X from accessing their thoughts. But in a bizarre turn of events, Red Skull consumed Professor X's brain, gaining psychic abilities himself. So there you go, Wolverine, you'll be able to fight against Red Skull a little bit more, I guess. Is that really a common problem for you? I don't think so. And at 9, lie detection. Logan, or Wolverine, whatever you want to call him, possesses a heightened sense of smell and hearing that surpasses that of an average human. His sense of smell is incredibly potent, which allows him to detect scents from a considerable distance, making it useful for tracking down enemies, but this acute sense of smell enables him to actually pick up on certain emotions as well, such as fear, which is emanating from individuals, pheromones, all that jazz. Okay? His hearing is also quite exceptional, allowing him to perceive sounds that are far away and even detect softer noises that are typically beyond the range of normal perception. So, combining these powers, Wolverine actually becomes basically a human lie detector. By focusing on a specific person, he can determine if they are telling the truth or not by relying on his sense of smell, detecting changes in their scent and sweating patterns if they lie, while using his hearing to actually concentrate on their heartbeat and detect any shifts in their tone of voice, which is pretty dope, and I wish I had that in my last relationship. In an 8, Berserker Rage. Here I am just dumping my trauma. Wolverine possesses a dangerous state known as Berserker Rage, which is triggered by an overwhelming anger that drives him to lash out uncontrollably. In this frenzied state, he becomes an unstoppable killing machine, slashing through enemies without hesitation. However, the downside is that Wolverine loses all sense of control and may even harm his allies, unable to recognize them in the midst of his rage, which I certainly relate to. This internal struggle has plagued Logan since childhood and often leads him to distance himself from others, fearing what he might do, but despite the risks, there are moments when the Berserker Rage proves necessary, particularly in his relentless battles against Sabretooth. The movie franchise also showcases this aspect of Wolverine, with a memorable scene in X2, the best X-Men movie, where he unleashes this fury, slashing through adversaries within the confines of the X-Mansion. But again, you all remember that scene, it's the best X-Men movie. Please flash sarcasm on the screen because they won't know I'm joking. In its 7, Night Vision. The combination of Wolverine's claws and super healing already gives him a formidable set of powers. Okay, the healing factor alone ensures that any wound is swiftly healed, including those caused by his claws, making him truly lethal. And alongside these regenerative capabilities that literally brought him back from a drop of blood, Logan possesses heightened senses like the super hearing, the smelling, and the ability to see in the dark. Although this power is often overlooked by some comic writers, it provides him with a distinct advantage in various situations. Wolverine has had an array of powers that has changed and evolved over the years, making him increasingly more powerful, but what initially began as a mutant with enhanced durability and claws developed into a character that is basically a, dare I say, Wolverine. Haha, get it? Yeah. He's constantly aware of his surroundings no matter what environment he's in because of this night vision, and his tendency to eliminate enemies before they actually pose like a genuine threat makes him exceedingly more formidable than normal. And this explains how he's able to do that, because, you know, he can see in the dark. And it's 6, Swordsman. In the 1990s comic storyline Fatal Attraction, Magneto forcibly removes the adamantium from Wolverine's body, leaving him without his signature claws. In this adamantiumless period, Wolverine carried a katana given to him by the Yoshida clan for added protection. One notable use of this katana was when he ended up beheading Bloodscream. Yeah. Oh boy. Later on, Wolverine acquired the Muramasa Blade, a sword with mythical properties capable of neutralizing a mutant's healing abilities, which is the unique blade that became his weapon of choice in certain situations, allowing him to confront and defeat formidable adversaries such as Omega Red and Sabretooth. And as it was the only weapon capable of truly ending Wolverine, therefore also able to end Omega Red and Sabretooth. But yeah, he's skilled with a sword, which you wouldn't really expect because, you know, he has the claws, but also makes sense because the claws are just basically tiny swords. Halfway through into number 5, Life Extension. After the events of Flashpoint in the DC animated universe, in a desperate bid to survive after being shot, Eobard Thawne tapped into the powers of the Speed Force, channeling it into his body to prolong his inevitable death. This granted him a brief extension of his life by vibrating his body extremely fast before succumbing to his wounds, allowing him to return to the altered timeline that Barry had created. However, the Speed Force couldn't heal his injury, and Thawne had to be cautious not to exert himself too much as it depleted his borrowed time. Determined to acquire the coveted Get Out of Hell free card, he mercilessly eliminated several members of Dr. Fate's Task Force X. Though he eventually obtained the card, a climactic encounter with Bronze Tiger resulted in the loss of his fingers and the card itself. So in a final confrontation with Deadshot, he gets gravely injured and is riddled with multiple bullets, so his life force fades away and the Speed Force leaves his body. Yeah, I mean, like, he returns to when Thomas Wayne Batman had shot him, so he actually dies, but I mean, he literally extended his life after getting shot in the frickin' brain. Yeah, I'm gonna count that as another power. In it for Immunity. The Flash's molecular vibration, mostly known for his ability to phase through objects, holds a lesser known but significant ability of granting him near levels of indestructibility. By manipulating the frequency of his molecules, like I just mentioned, the fastest man alive can vibrate at such an intense level that he becomes impervious to disintegration. This remarkable power works as both offensive and defensive means, with Barry being able to demonstrate this skill by vibrating through objects, of course, but also disintegrating objects upon touching them, famously the hand through the chest. But it also just makes him like immune to like acids. So like if like someone was to throw sulfuric acid on him, he can just vibrate and it won't do anything, which is kinda nuts, which just adds an additional layer of invulnerability to speedsters. I don't know, it's pretty dope, but I mean, I don't know how many times he gets sulfuric acid thrown on him, so I don't know how useful it actually is going to be. Getting close to the end, and at number 3, No Batteries Boyfriend. Okay, I'm sure you can get where this is going, but I'm gonna say it anyway. This was touched on within the show, and there have been jokes made about it throughout the years, but while some say that the fastest man alive wouldn't be able to make a romantic experience good, I'd say that it's actually probably the exact opposite in practice. Hear me out, okay? While yes, to the rest of the world it may seem like it took a second for it to end, but the ability to give others temporary speed or bring them into flash time like we see in the show, that 1 second could be an hour for the couple, okay? Like, the flash time thing is such an insane ability. I mean, like, he was able to do a full episode of the show before a nuclear bomb exploded, okay? It's the ultimate time saver, and it makes it even more romantic because you're literally the only two in the world for that time. And I mean, also, the dude can vibrate, which is why I called this number No Batteries Boyfriend, okay? You think that he's gonna go off in a second? You'll be off just as fast, and then you'll have a kickback like a damn cannon, okay? No wonder he ends up having kids in basically every timeline, and it's like almost always twins. I get it. Penultimately, in at number 2, Eminem. With his quick-witted mind and lightning-fast legs, it's no surprise that the Scarlet Speedster has an equally rapid mouth. And no, I'm not going in the last direction again, I promise. In times of necessity or when overwhelmed by nerves, the Flash can actually unleash a torrent of speech at super speed. And while regular humans and many other heroes can't actually understand what's going on, fellow speedsters and Superman are exceptions and can actually get what he's saying. While this power is rarely showcased, it's often just gibberish to most people. The Flash uses it when he's talking with other speedsters or the Man of Steel, and in the novelization of Kingdom Come, it's revealed that this unique form of communication is the only way that the Kingdom Come Flash can speak, because he's always moving, and Superman is the only person who's remaining that's able to understand it. I think that's pretty cool, and I mean, like, if he wanted to try to do Rap God, he would probably crush Eminem. I want to see that. Next epic rap battle of history, The Flash versus Eminem. Do it. And finally, in at number 1, creating gods. God. Going to the CW, okay? From a crisis where every Earth gets destroyed, it's hard to make any other story seem worth it, okay? But the absolutely crazy thing is that following the next season of The Flash, the season 7, they actually upped the stakes by having Barry fight the literal Speed Force, okay? And it was a reborn Speed Force. That's what this number is about. Barry ended up getting the Speed Force killed when Oliver Queen as the Spectre brought out his full potential because, you know, they had to save the multiverse. But after it died, Barry and Iris essentially birthed another one, but at the same time created 3 other forces that were all evil for one time or another, okay? And then the others eventually get onto their side and become good, but then the Speed Force wants to kill them, and then it also looks like it's Barry's mom again, and they start calling her Nora. It's a weird storyline, okay, I will admit, and Barry fighting the thing that gave him his powers doesn't make sense because it could just take him away and then win. But yeah, when you rebirth the thing that gave you powers and you're basically their father, because at one point they call you dad even sarcastically, and it looks like your mom, yeah, but also it's like the 4 primordial forces of the universe, so yeah, you birthed gods.
Number 10, leadership. While he might not be the leader we'd all like for the X-Men, Scott Summers is more often the one that his fellow mutants need. Professor Xavier actually trained Cyclops for the role since day 1 as a young mutant who had been there since the beginning. So when people ask if he deserves to be a leader, the answer should be an emphatic yes, as he has been training for this role pretty much his entire life. A master tactician, Cyclops usually has his eyes on the bigger picture when it comes to problem solving, meaning sometimes, in order to achieve something good, he can be willing to do something that other heroes might deem as bad or downright dastardly. He kills people. He remade X-Force into a team of child assassins. He became a martyr on purpose, sacrificing himself because he knew the younger mutants needed someone to become their symbol to rally around. So, while we may not always approve of his actions, the bottom line is Cyclops is still one of the best when it comes to prime leaders in the Marvel universe. While a very different character, he's on like a Captain America level of leadership. And that's like people universally agree to that, so not making that up. I know you're all thinking it. Number 9, blast immunity. Due to the fact that they share genes and similar powers, Cyclops has blast immunity when it comes to his brother Havoc's blasts. His brother can devastate and obliterate anything he locks onto with his own shockwave-like blasts, which are emitted from his body, often more specifically his hands. Well, that is unless he targets Scott. Alex himself likewise has immunity to Scott's optic blast as well. Well, usually anyways. And to be clear, they can still attack one another, but the damage is simply negligible. It can be easily shrugged off due to their built-up immunity to each other. And when it comes to his own blast, Scott is completely immune. That's how he still manages to have eyelids and can even prevent his eyes from emitting optic blasts when they are closed shut. Though he does still often have to sleep with his ruby quartz visor to be safe. I always like to imagine him with like a ruby quartz like eye mask. I think that would be super cute. Probably never gonna see that in the comics though, might be too cute for Scott. Not for me though. Number 8, energy blasts. While many get triggered when I use the term laser eyes in videos, the reality is I do it to poke loving fun at the inconsistency of Scott Summers' powers. It's part of his comic book history. We may refer to the energy he emits from his eyes as optic blasts now, but the truth is optic blast was actually a term coined for him after his powers were retconned. Originally, Scott's powers were explained in that his eyes absorbed energy from the sun, and that solar energy was actually what created the blast. Hot, solar energy. The only thing that could contain this solar energy was ruby quartz. This meant that his powers could be depleted and would sometimes need to be recharged. At one point he even managed to harness lunar energy to use instead, although lunar energy wasn't shown to be quite as effective, not quite as powerful. However, a lot of fellow comic book nerds had some questions regarding Cyclops' powers in terms of how they were supposed to work, and the source for his main ability was changed. Now his eyes would be known as portals to another dimension, overflowing with energy, where the logic of our world's physics did not apply. This made his powers appear more versatile, more limitless, and allowed writers more creative license with them. It also appeased fans, so just kinda weird. I love that like we think that that makes more sense. Oh, they're portals to another dimension. No, yeah, that's fine, that's fine. Number 7, visor. Okay, so we all know that Cyclops has a visor, and that his visor helps him flip the switch for his optic blasts. But what you might not know is that when he fires blasts in the comics and you see him clenching his fists, that's not just a flair for the dramatic. That fist clenching also has to do with controlling his powers. Say what? It's true. The controls for his visor are actually inside his gloves. They're comprised of a series of small buttons sensitive to pressure, allowing him to change the size of the opening in the visor and have very precise control over how much damage he wants to inflict, as well as where he wants to target that damage to. This may sound like a silly place to put said buttons. What if you accidentally clenched your fist in frustration? Until you realize this also gives Scott access to his powers even when restrained. Also means he can just take off his gloves and go to sleep with his visor on. So, pretty cool. Tie his hands, he can still use them. Put him to bed, he just takes off his gloves. Useless. Number 6. Superior DNA. Despite having siblings who appear more powerful than him, Mr. Sinister has always had and continues to have an obsession with Scott Summers. Why? Well, he's also obsessed with the whole Summers line, of course, but according to him, Scott is the genetic key to creating the most powerful mutant of all time. This is due to his superior DNA. But what does that mean? Well, I don't know exactly. I'm still waiting for Mr. Sinister's TED Talk on mutant DNA to help explain this whole thing in layman's terms. But for now, we just have to trust the villainous geneticist on this. I mean, I doubt he would have manipulated Scott's entire life on the scale that he has without facts to back up his claim. So he just has superior DNA. He just has it. Some people, they're just born with it. Some people, it's Maybelline.
Number 5. Speed Force clothing. So we just talked about how Barry uses electromagnetism to assemble his suit from his ring. Still defies so many things, but his counterpart, Wally West, sometimes he doesn't even have access to his suit for various different reasons. This isn't a problem though, as Wally West Flash can also make his costume directly out of the Speed Force. Now this ability does take some concentration and comes with the risk of the Flash ending up completely naked if he happens to get knocked out or something, but thinking about it, this means that speedsters can basically have the ability to make Speed Force constructs. But beyond just creating a temporary Flash costume, which looked awesome by the way, Wally has used this ability to reweave the molecules of his Kid Flash costume and construct a completely new Flash suit out of pure Speed Force energy. What does that even mean? I don't know. Do you know? Probably not. Number 4. Speed Bank. One very useful trick that both Wally West and Barry Allen have been shown to have is the ability to lend out and take away the Speed Force abilities from others. Basically, these two can act as something of a quote speed bank. That's what someone online called it at least. These two Flashes are so well connected to the Speed Force that they can give or take speed away from others. As with any ability that is much too overpowered, like Speed Force constructs for example, it uses a fair amount of quote concentration, leaving the Flash open to other attacks. But if they want to, the Flash can make anyone a temporary speedster to help in a fight, or he can take away the speed from people or objects, stopping them in their tracks. Or, if you go by the name Impulse, Wally West can freeze you in one pose and leave you in a museum alive but petrified for all times. Sounds scary when you say it like that, doesn't it? Number 3. Speed Reading. Like I said before, those with the Speed Force move their minds, and I guess their eyes, about as fast as their bodies. As a byproduct of that, speedsters can also read entire books front to back in a matter of moments. This can be extremely helpful for superheroes in tight spots where they need information on a certain topic or need to read an instruction manual to help them out in specific situations. For both Barry Allen and Wally West though, they are actually unable to retain the knowledge of what they read at super speed. They read it and then it will stay in their minds for a little while, but after about a day or so, it will be gone. But those two aren't the only speedsters around. Both Bart Allen and the original Flash, Jay Garrick, have both completely mastered this ability. These two speedsters can retain everything they read, and Jay has even bragged that he has read every single science book in the world and can recite them word for word. I kinda believe it. Big old nerd. Number 2. Speed cloning. This one is something that has been seen before with other fast-moving superheroes. In most iterations of an ability like speed cloning, a character is simply moving so fast that they appear to be in more than one place at the same time. With the Flash though, it's just a tiny bit different. They do move so fast that they appear to be in two places at once, but That's because that's actually another them. The Flash is able to create duplicates of himself by very quickly entering and exiting the time stream, essentially creating versions of himself that are 1 second older or younger than the main one. These clones aren't actually clones, as in they aren't genetically grown beings identical to the host, but rather they are actual moments of the Flash that are just cut out from time and pasted into another moment. When he was Impulse, Bart Allen was the first one to ever do this, and it went really bad, as the hero then watched a time-displaced version of himself completely lose his life, which has to be absolutely terrifying to watch. And finally, in number 1, it's a super metabolism. This one does feel like a bit of a no-brainer, but I find that a speedster's metabolism doesn't actually come up very often, not in stories or anything really. Basically, every speedster has a faster metabolism than an average human, and that just makes sense, but it affects each of them differently. They all heal at a faster rate than normal people, but Barry Allen himself has shown the ability to just focus on an injury and heal it almost instantly. When his arm was completely crushed, it only took minutes for his arm to be completely healed. He was also able to quickly heal from the absolutely insane pressures of being 2,000 feet below the ocean, which dealt extreme damage to his body, and he was fine. Wally West at one point had a weaker connection to the Speed Force, and at that time, Wally would have to eat massive amounts of food just in order to keep his metabolism up and running, which to me sounds like an absolute nightmare. I love food, but could you imagine having to just chow down on a mountain of food, especially if it wasn't good food? Luckily, once he was able to fully connect to the Speed Force, that went away, but it's an interesting thing to note that in order to keep themselves up and running without the Speed Force, speedsters have to be super eaters. The super metabolism also unfortunately means that parties are celebrated sober only, but the Flash is virtually immune to any gases, so like, you win some, you lose some, you know what I mean?
In its end, Shapeshifting Face. Superman possesses an incredible level of control over all of his muscles, which at one point allowed him to alter the shape of his face and even transform his entire body. The remarkable ability is showcased in Action Comics number 55 and several other Golden Age stories, but in his early adventures, Superman used this power to assume various disguises, such as mimicking disgraced athletes or adopting the appearance of extraterrestrial creatures. Given the extent of the shape-shifting ability though, it raises the question, why would he choose to conceal his identity with glasses when he's able to transform his entire being? But the answer to that question is complicated. While Superman's shape-shifting ability grants him remarkable disguise potential, he primarily relies on Clark Kent to protect the identity. But the real reason behind how this is so effective will be explained in a minute. And at 9, explosion containment. In the Flashpoint Paradox, Superman joins forces with the Flash and other heroes to rescue him from Professor Zoom and Rogues. As Zoom threatens to destroy Central City with powerful bombs attached to Flash and the other rogues, the heroes come up with a plan. They split up, each taking a rogue and moving to defuse the bombs at a safe distance. Superman takes on Heatwave and positions him at a cliff. With his superhuman strength, Superman just like grabs the bomb and covers it with his bare hands, and then contains the explosion. The rest of Team Flash defuses the bomb successfully and saves Flash, but Superman's just like, I got this, don't worry, boom! It's impressive, but I mean like, yeah, it would make sense, but also the fact that like you had to hold your hands together hella hard for that to not leak out the sides, that's impressive. That's a power in and of itself. In at 8, Master Builder. This is where it starts getting weird. In the 1987 film Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, there is a scene where Nuclear Man damages the Great Wall of China. Upon witnessing the destruction, Superman merely gazes at the debris, and within moments, the wall is miraculously restored. This power is often overlooked, but yeah, Superman is able to repair objects or structures just by looking at them, like a master builder from the Lego movie. The reason why this is actually a thing is not really understood. It's very, very specific, so it's literally never mentioned again. Because I mean, also, like, the Great Wall of China is not really part of Superman's daily patrol. While he protects the world from imminent threats, he can also cut the Union workers' time in half. So there you go. Maybe that's something to look out for, government. The unique power of just rebuilding objects through looking at them is just so dumb. But again, it would have been useful in the Lego Batman movie. Bruce could have used your help there, Soups. Also, it just clicked that the Lego movie is canon in the Spider-Verse now, which means that we have yet another link between Marvel and DC. In its 7, mind control. In a daring series of events, in Superman number 45 from 1947, the alien race known as the Collectors unleashes their power of invisibility to disrupt a boxing match and abduct Biff the Unbeatable. Their audacity continues as they capture atomic scientist John Henders during a crucial presentation, followed by the abduction of a beauty contest participant and judge, Lois Lane, and then finally, millionaire Herkimer Ingot falls victim to their grasp within the confines of his own damn home. Superman ends up getting captured, or lets himself get captured, because during his imprisonment, he uses his telepathic abilities to coerce his captors into revealing the device that grants them interdimensional travel. He then uses this to break free from his cell, turns himself into a collector. So with the aid of that dimension hopping device, Superman transports himself to the 3rd dimension. He then also destroys the machine, ensuring the collector's abduction thing comes to an end. In its 6, self-cloning. In the pages of 1958 Superman number 125, an unusual encounter with an alien ship leads to the loss of Superman's usual powers. Instead, he discovers 2 peculiar abilities: the power to emit rainbow beams from his fingertips, and the ability to create a miniature version of himself from the palm of his hand. While the rainbow beams had their limitations, Superman relied heavily on his little clones to perform tasks requiring his usual strength. It comes as no surprise that Superman does eventually get his powers back. Superman found little reason after that to really use the rainbow beams and his mini-me. It's reasonable to assume that he could also keep these powers. Why would you rely on those when you can use frickin' heat vision? The fact that they only really showed up once does limit their use, their functionality, and the fact that no one frickin' remembers it.
Number 5, super smell. As Spider-Woman, Jessica Drew has heightened senses, but one you might be surprised to hear about is her super smell. Her smell is so good that she was able to tell that the Nick Fury she was talking to in New Avengers Volume 1, issue 23 was an AI decoy, as opposed to the real thing. She commented to Maria Hill on her improvements to the model, but cited the smell as the thing that tipped her off. That's some Wolverine level sense of smell there. Unless S.H.I.E.L.D.'s AIs reek of oil or something, which I sincerely doubt considering how many other people they have succeeded in fooling, this is pretty impressive. Number 4, dimensional travel. Jessica ended up getting her very own dimensional watch following the Spider-Verse events. This device was listed as part of her equipment at the back of Spider-Gwen Volume 2, issue 7. The weird thing though is that in that issue, it was Spider-Gwen's dimensional watch that went missing, not Jessica's. Yet Jessica was concerned about being without a way to teleport home after her and Silk of Earth 616 had joined Gwen on Earth 65 for brunch. Spider-Gwen's device was stolen, and Jessica Drew, Spider-Gwen, and Silk of Earth 616 had to team up to retrieve it. It's just really weird that at the end of this issue, it acknowledges that Jess has one, cause she clearly didn't have it in that issue. If she found out that she did, she would have teleported home to her baby in an instant. I am sure. She loves that baby. She loves it. Little baby Jerry. Pretty cute baby actually. Number 3, pheromones. When Jessica Drew was first introduced, she struggled a lot to deal with other people. I mean, of course, she was basically raised in a tube and then later brainwashed by a Hydra into thinking that she'd been a spider, so kind of understand where that comes from. She was known as socially awkward and often written as shy. She ended up feeling isolated and removed from the world, though we later found out the reason she seemed to drive so many people away is because she unknowingly produced fear-inducing pheromones. This later was a forgotten power as Jessica took medication to help suppress it. Later it was implied that the extra pheromones she produced were actually seductive in nature. Or maybe she had just gotten better control of them? I don't know. But she definitely has used them to seduce people before. And once again later she decided to use a fragrance to neutralize and mask her pheromones instead. So this power is still not really often brought up or used, though one time she did use it to get Hulk to make her a sandwich. I'm not joking, that happened. Can check it out. Number 2, superhuman speed. Not only does Spider-Woman have superhuman strength like other spider people, but she also has superhuman speed. In Spider-Woman Volume 1 issue 40, she is fighting the flying tiger. When he swings and misses her, he ends up puzzled. He wonders if she even moved and how he could have possibly missed her. Didn't see her move at all. Jessica reveals in a thought bubble that she is simply too fast for him to see, confessing that she can move faster than one's eyes. She also seems to be able to fall really fast in the comics for some reason. And that fight between her and Tiger has some crazy hilarious dialogue. If you haven't read it yet, you really should. No, Tiger, you're inept. I'm gonna use that insult on people. You're inept. Stop that. Number 1, venom blasts. A unique ability that Spider-Woman has that not many other spider people possess is her venom blasts. She can shoot bioelectric energy from her hands, which allows her to shock an assailant and often knock them out. This power has the ability to target multiple people, travel through metal as it is an electrical current, and even move through others and leap to another target, like lightning. And these venom blasts are powerful. She's used these powers before to hurt Null, Breaker of Worlds, stun an Aleph, and even kill someone. Accidentally, of course. She didn't mean to. She's like, nah, oops, killed ya.
In at 10, running on air. In a display of incredible speed and resourcefulness, Barry Allen, the Flash, once embarked on a remarkable feat during the Silver Age. Jumping out of a plane, he utilized his powers to race across the surfaces of numerous clouds. Employing his understanding of the clouds and their water vapor, using them as temporary support, Barry ingeniously skipped across the clouds, basically defying gravity with the help of his super speed. He was moving so fast this dude ran on clouds. As the fastest man alive, Barry's remarkable agility and speed also granted him alternative options when, terrain is limited. In a remarkable demonstration of his abilities again, he moved his legs with such extraordinary speed and force that they compressed the air molecules beneath him, making basically just a staircase for him to run up in the air. It's insane. This incredible display showcases the extent of Flash's powers and just the fact that you can give him whatever powers you want just using speed as an explanation, because damn, dude just ran up air. And at 9, voice modulation. While shapeshifters such as Martian Manhunter and Plastic Man are known for their deceptive abilities, the Flash is not typically associated with those powers. But the fastest man alive found a way to utilize his supersonic speed to manipulate his voice, making it as challenging to figure out who he is as it is to outrace him in literally anything. By vibrating his vocal cords at various wavelengths, the Flash can effectively disguise himself and mimic the voices of other individuals. This skill is actually pretty dope, and as far as the show goes, was only used to disguise his voice when he was talking to people that he knew, which is the most logical way a superhero has disguised their voice so far, but damn, he was also able to subtly use makeup and this ability to deceive members of the Rogues Gallery, leading them to believe that he was one of their own. And at 8, teleportation. There was this comic called The Human Race, wherein a group of cosmic gamblers who existed at the edge of the universe traveled around the cosmos and made bets with each other for fun. They were ultra mega powerful, so this was their only form of entertainment. They picked up speedsters throughout the cosmos and made them race against each other while placing bets on it, like some weird horse race. But the speedsters who lost got their home planets destroyed. Yeah. In one such bet, Earth gets the attention of these cosmic gamblers, and Wally West, the current Flash and the fastest man alive, became the representative for Earth. During a race with the fellow speedsters in the bet, Wally, who realized the cosmic gamblers will never refuse a friendly bet, proposes another one with those gamblers that he will reach Earth before they can. The fact that the cosmic gamblers can teleport made them extremely cocky, so of course they're going to take it, but god damn. Using the kinetic energy of everyone on Earth and then some, Wally ran at what is called the trans-time velocity, fast enough to beat teleportation, which is 23 trillion times faster than the speed of light, which is an unfathomable number. He reasonably should have lost and gotten the whole planet destroyed, but he didn't. So there you go. He can run as fast as teleportation. And at 7, flying. This also isn't even a joke or a technicality. In the Justice League Unlimited episode I Am Legion, Wally West, who was the Flash at the time, faces a situation where he plummets from a jet with no means to halt the fall. Quick on his feet though, or I guess quick on his stomach, Wally comes up with a plan and starts rapidly spinning his arms. The resulting gust of wind becomes so powerful that it not only slows his descent, but allows him to hover in mid-air like a helicopter. However, lacking experience in flight, Wally struggles to actually control this and veers off course until he crash lands on a beach, but the instance demonstrates that the Flash can fly using his powers if he does so effectively. Both Barry and Wally, along with other speedsters harnessing ample Speed Force energy, are able to actually take flight by generating force assembling a helicopter with either their arms or their legs. Once airborne, they can then maneuver their flight trajectory using the same techniques, or run atop clouds and other airborne surfaces, as I mentioned earlier. And it's 6, anti-death equation. This is the opposite of the anti-life equation, but I wasn't going to call it the pro-life equation. The anti-life equation stands as a legendary concept coveted within the expansive DC universe. Darkseid, the relentless pursuer, always seeks to unravel this enigmatic formula, whatever the case may be, which has been depicted in various ways by different writers. It has been portrayed as proof that existence is ultimately meaningless, and as an inherent concept within the minds of sentient beings, enabling absolute control and domination. But while the anti-life equation holds immense power, it finds its match with the Speed Force. Barry Allen, as the Flash, possessed the ability to defy the equation's influence through physical contact, demonstrating the extent of these extraordinary capabilities with Iris. In a moment of heroics, Barry used this power to rescue Iris West, who's in this universe the aunt of Wally, not his sister, from the clutches of the equation with a kiss. Yeah, just by kissing her, Barry counters the equation's grip, showcasing that the Speed Force is basically all-powerful. Okay, that's nuts. Halfway through into number 5, wisdom. Logan's journey as a superhero spans across significant historical events. Okay, he served in both World War I and World War II. He even fought alongside Captain America, and following these wars, he found himself in Japan, where he formed a family only to tragically lose them, and these devastating losses, combined with centuries of heartbreak, contribute to Logan's bitter and cynical demeanor. But after going through the adamantium bonding process, he befriended Alpha Fight, a Canadian superhero team, and became one of Canada's earliest superheroes. His initial task involved intervening in a conflict between Hulk and a Wendigo. However, his path took a turn when he was sent to eliminate Charles Xavier, but ended up being influenced by Xavier's telepathic abilities, leading him to join the X-Men. But still, okay, Wolverine's wealth of experiences and wisdom greatly influenced the X-Men's journey, and I mean, with an extended lifespan comes years to learn and become wiser, which he clearly has, so then it only continues on. So yeah, dude, damn, well done. Good for you. In at 4, feral form. The 90s marked a peculiar era in comic books characterized by excessive violence, extreme physical attributes, and objectification. But it was a time when unconventional ideas emerged, yielding both remarkable stories like Age of Apocalypse and disappointing ones like the Clone Saga. But surprisingly, Wolverine spent a significant portion of this decade without his adamantium skeleton. Despite losing the metal coating, he did retain his bone claws and healing factor, maintaining, like, you know, the classic Wolverine sort of aspect. However, the supervillain Genesis sought to actually restore Wolverine's adamantium, driven by a desire to serve the powerful Apocalypse. In a failed attempt though, Logan's body rejected the procedure and triggered a dormant mutation. Stripped of adamantium, Wolverine underwent a primal transformation, adopting an animalistic mentality while his nails grew into natural claws. It showcased the profound impact that the absence of adamantium had on Wolverine's body, and he just kind of became a beast, ironically enough. So yeah, he kind of needs the adamantium nowadays, otherwise he kind of goes back. Getting close to the end, in number 3, Super Dad. On Earth 982, Rena was the new girl at high school, where some of the more popular girls tried to make her life miserable, stating that she was the daughter of an immigrant and an unemployed biker and all that. But when her dad, Logan, picked her up from school on his bike, everyone's opinion changed, especially when they learned that her mother, Elektra, was a wealthy martial arts expert. Yeah, it's crazy what fear can do. However, life at high school wasn't just about dealing with, like, the crowd and, you know, normal high school things, because, you know, it's a comic book high school. So, as Wild Thing, Rena had to save a classmate from a high-speed kidnapper, defeat a computerized assassin, stop a demonic invader, and even fight one of her teachers when he was turned into a Prime Sentinel. But that's just high school. But the fact that he can just pull up to her school and then everyone stops making fun of his kid, that's a superpower, okay? And I wish my dad had that superpower. Although I probably wouldn't be as funny as I think I am if that had been the case. But ultimately, in number 2, time travel. When translating comic book superheroes to the big screen, screenwriters have to take creative liberties to adapt the material effectively, okay? What happens in comics can't necessarily work on screen. For example, Thanos' infatuation with Lady Death, which was a significant aspect of his character character in the comics, was omitted for Infinity War and Endgame, allowing for a more focused portrayal of him. Similarly, the X-Men's colorful costumes were deemed impractical for the early films, leading to more black latex that ironically have aged poorly compared to their comic counterparts. But when the classic Days of Future Past storyline was adapted in the movie of the same name, significant alterations were made. In the comics, Kitty Pryde was the central character sent to the past to save the future, but in the movie, Wolverine took on that role. The film introduced the concept of Kitty Pryde's ability to send someone's consciousness back in time, with the caveat that it damages the mind. Due to his regenerative healing factor though, Wolverine became the only valid candidate to actually go through time that far back and ensure everyone's survival. And then finally, in at number 1, the Phoenix Force. I mean, like, okay, this is kind of a cop-out, but like, it still happened, okay? It was originally believed that the Phoenix Force was just simply an alternate personality of Jean Grey, or well, I guess the Phoenix was, just emerging when she acquired immense power. However, after Jean's tragic demise in the Dark Phoenix saga, it was retconned that the Phoenix was in fact a cosmic entity, and the Phoenix Force had a knack for possessing individuals, with Jean Grey being its favored host. Over the years though, it has possessed numerous mutants. Rachel Grey, Jean's daughter from an alternate future, Cyclops, Emma Frost, Colossus, Magic, and Namor were all possessed by the Phoenix Force at some point, and simultaneously, in fact, forming the group known as the Phoenix Five, because, you know, you couldn't have one more, otherwise they would be competing with the Sinister Six, and you couldn't have one less, otherwise it would be like the Fantastic Four. You know, there's a lot of numbers that you gotta work with. But yeah, Wolverine has also had it, okay? So there you go. He's had that, and he has all those powers, or at least he has.
Coming in at number 10, he's immune to continuity changes. Barry Allen can run faster than the speed of light, and yet what is arguably his most impressive accomplishment is becoming completely immune to the DC Universe's many continuity changes. As an example of what I mean, in the Flashpoint story, Barry is the only one who remembered the previous version of the DC Universe while in the wildly different timeline that he found himself in. It's not just Barry though. When Wally West, the fastest Flash, re-emerged from the Speed Force in the DC Rebirth era, he was the only one who remembered the pre-New 52 world that the rest of the DCU forgot about. The Speed Force has always enabled the Flashes to do amazing things, and one of the major things it has done is allowed speedsters to step completely outside of time. The ability to be unaffected by continuity changes is an added benefit of that. It makes the Flash and the speedsters the only living authorities within the DCU who know what their universe is supposed to look like. Number 9. Telepathic Immunity. When someone moves their body at a speed so fast that they begin to live in the moments between moments, their minds would also have to move at such astronomical speeds. And the Flash's mind definitely does indeed move that fast. Thank the Lord the Speed Force doesn't just push the physical. Barry Allen's brain's computational enhancements do a lot for him, and I'll be talking about a good number of those things later on. But one thing that having a mind that moves just so insanely fast is that speedsters are all heavily resistant to mind control and mental attacks. If you think about this, it just kinda makes sense. If someone uses their telepathic brain at the normal human speed, any move they try to make against someone like Barry Allen or Wally West would be done at a snail's pace in comparison to their brains that are essentially moving thousands of times faster and seeing things many moves ahead. Coming in at number 8, it's the speed aura. One of the main reasons that a speedster like Barry Allen or Wally West can't exist in the real world is, well, because if anyone moved that fast in real life, it would actually destroy the Earth, but also because there's a thing called friction. When we move fast enough, friction can occur from even just the air. If you are moving as fast as a speedster and you have no speed force or some kind of durability enhancement, then by the time you get where you're going, you probably wouldn't have much in the way of skin or muscles anymore. And that goes double for anyone you may be carrying / trying to save. Well, thanks to the Speed Force, speedsters actually gain an aura that basically negates that whole issue. The aura, which grows the faster Flash is moving, allows in enough air and wind to keep him cool, but it blocks all debris and air friction that could hurt the speedster or anyone he's carrying. He's essentially surrounded by a quote friction cushion of kinetic absorbent energy that protects from the rigorous effects of using such insane speeds. Outside of friction, this also protects from airborne particulate matter, heavy impacts, and even G-force. Number 7. Microsleeps. Remember how I said the Flash basically thinks as fast as he runs? Well, what if I told you he also sleeps as fast as he runs? More than that, what if I told you that he sleeps in the little in-between moments that he is fighting bad guys? Now, of course, when the Flash is facing off against Reverse Flash, other speedsters, the Legion of Doom, or any major threat, the Flash is all hands on deck, red alert, focused. But when he's out there doing the daily superhero grind and battling it out with some random petty criminals, Flash can take it easy and relax a little bit more than other people can, and that is when he has his micro naps. Taking place in the literal picoseconds, which is 1/1,000,000th of a second, the Flash can and does take cat naps that help keep him focused during a fight and well rested at all times. That explains why we never really see them sleeping at all. Number 6. Electromagnetism. One of the more curious aspects of Barry Allen's Speed Force abilities is that it gives him some degree of electrokinesis. He can generate lightning and electrical attacks and discharges, and is actually quite the potent ability, with his lightning being able to travel through water and disrupt magic. But due to his electrical abilities, Barry is also able to manipulate the electromagnetic spectrum to some extent. And the biggest example of this is him getting his entire supersuit into his ring. The heat from Barry's lightning creates a thermal expansion that allows Barry's suit to be stored in his ring. Every time he releases his suit from his ring, the pieces of it are conducted by lightning to form the suit around him. He manipulates electromagnetism to mentally control the pieces that form, specifically though, his mask, and can cause the mask to construct over his face and even retract back on his command. So while that is a small example of electromagnetism, knowing that Barry can use his lightning to create electromagnetic fields means that it really only takes one story for the Flash to become a scary fast Magneto.
Number 5. Telepathic Defense. While we're not always aware of this power for a multitude of heroes, I feel like it has become a secret must-have if you just want to be part of the X-Men team. Everyone on the X-Men seems to just have it without our knowledge until it just randomly comes up in the comics. But I guess that's what happens when you work alongside and fight against so many powerful telepaths. Actually, this ability was harnessed and strengthened by Scott through rigorous training with Professor Charles Xavier, and through his close connection to one of the strongest telepaths in the Marvel Universe, Jean Grey, and later his relationship with another accomplished telepath, Emma Frost. Although his telepathic defense didn't protect him from having Jean uncover his psychic affair with Emma Frost, so yeah. Ooh. Feel like that would have been a good time to flex that defense. Be like, ooh, don't find out. Oh well, she would have found out anyways. He would have told her because he loves her. Number 4. Super Trigonometry. Due to his danger room training, Cyclops is insanely skilled when it comes to his optic blasts. I'm sure it's hard enough to just aim using your eyes, as I don't think it would actually be as intuitive as we all think. And even the flick of your eyes to a different direction mid-battle could mess with where you are targeting. You'd also have to be quite focused. Scott is not only skilled when it comes to targeting with his blasts in general, but he can also bounce his optic blasts off surfaces, knowing which angles to approach in order to bounce the blast around in a less direct manner, avoiding obstacles and catching his opponents unawares. And in fact, firing his optic blast in a specific direction also requires a lot of control with his visor, as his eyes don't really allow him to focus a blast. It's often depicted that his visor is actually more where specific targeting comes in. I think he's got like panels that allow him to like adjust the angle. Part of this skill is practicality, and part of it is mind math, known as his super trigonometry skills. You do not want to play pool with Cyclops if he's using his blast. He will beat you. He will definitely beat you. Ooh, Hawkeye versus Cyclops in pool, who would win? These are the questions. Number 3. Black Vortex. The Black Vortex is a construct that allows those who possess it to unleash their full cosmic potential. In Cyclops Volume 3, a younger version of Cyclops from the past was working with his dad Corsair and the Starjammers, who were actually tracking the Black Vortex, and Cyclops ended up being imbued by its energy after he and his teammates, Young Iceman and Groot, became trapped on the ship where the Vortex was and had to fight their way out. They all decided to submit to the Vortex, and in so doing were granted its cosmic power, becoming the most powerful versions of themselves. Cyclops himself had an awesome suit that appeared to allow him to channel his blast through his eyes, his head, his neck, and his chest. And instead of his visor, he's actually wearing a mask, implying that he has more control over his blast ability. Also, Iceman looks like an ice elf, and it's like super cute and awesome. I just love a good ice elf. Also that hair, he has such nice long hair. Elves are so cute. Number 2. breaks adamantium. During the Age of Apocalypse storyline, Cyclops and Wolverine end up on opposite sides of the battle. Cyclops found himself temporarily allied with Apocalypse, and although in falling for the rebel and prisoner Jean Grey felt like he might be switching sides, this all ended up happening not quite fast enough. He came to blows with Logan, known as Weapon X in this alternate timeline, who showed up and fought to free Jean by himself. Unsurprisingly, once again, even in this alternate timeline, Jean was a huge part of these two's dislike for one another, and without the mutual cause of Xavier and the X-Men to unite them, their fight became a brutal one. Cyclops lost an eye and proved the power of his blast when he ended up breaking through Logan's adamantium-coated skeleton, severing his hand. Was it the left hand or the right hand? I feel like in comics, I feel like it was the left hand, but that's some real trivia for you. Tell me which hand it was. Number 1. Spirit Bomb. What's better than optic blasts? Happiness blasts! Yep, Scott one time used his power to channel happy thoughts through his eyeballs in order to stop an alien invasion, with a little help of course from his friends. This was back in the 70s in Volume 1 of Uncanny X-Men. Of course it's from the 70s. A race of aliens known as the Xenox threatened to destroy the Earth using the proximity of their piloted homeworld's gravity, but they had one huge weakness: their fear of positive emotions. Meaning that when Charles Xavier channeled all of Earth's positive thoughts and passed them telepathically onto Jean, who in turn passed them on to Alex Summers, who boosted them with cosmic rays, and passed them on to Cyclops, whose eyes they came out of in a beam of hot and awesome intensity, which was then cooled somewhat by Iceman as the beam made its way straight to the Xanox, the invaders were successfully scared off, defeated. Man, that's a lot of passing. That's like, these guys should play like sports more, I think. They'd be so good at it. And that's how Cyclops' spirit bomb ability saved the planet. Sure, he needed help, but geez, what a plot. So yeah, he can use his eyes to channel other things sometimes. Fun fact. Number 10. Skilled Spy. Jessica Drew has been trained in espionage by Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D. and actually is a fantastic spy. Her training likely also came in handy in the Spider-Verse when she infiltrated the Inheritors, going undercover and impersonating Morland's lover on Loomworld, who apparently just happened to look exactly like her. Weird. Talk about taking one for the team. Her assistance in the Spider-Verse storyline, however, went to show just how formidable a foe Jessica Drew can be. All I'm saying is you would not want to get on her bad side. So wait, when Veronica the Skrull Queen was posing as Jessica Drew, when she went on like a spy mission for S.H.I.E.L.D., would we call that spyception? Spies on spies on spies? Number 9. Super Sleuth. When you think of Jessica Drew, you may think of her more spider-like abilities, but what you might have forgotten is that she's actually a registered private investigator. That's right. At one point, Jessica Drew moved to San Francisco and worked hard to get her private investigator license. Not only that, but she was good at it too. During this time in her life, everything felt like it was actually going super right. She opened her own successful PI business, her vigilante persona was being praised by the city as she was referred to as the Dark Angel of San Francisco, and she fell in love with her landlord, David. Unfortunately, the last part didn't end up working out after David discovered that she was a superhero. And after a fight with Morgan Le Fay, she ended up comatose. And once she was revived, powerless. Harsh. What a harsh time. Not surprised she's a super sleuth, considering that she was kind of inspired by Nancy Drew. Number 8. Insane amount of endurance. Jessica Drew is one of the few heroes who is known for fighting crime even while very visibly pregnant. I mean, sure, other women have probably done it. Sue Storm has also probably fought while she was, with child, but none have gone quite as hard as Spider-Woman. While checking out an off-world maternity ward, a very, very pregnant Jessica found herself fighting hard as it was invaded by Skrulls. I kid you not. Not only is that impressive enough, but she kicked some serious butt and almost handily defeated them until she went into labor. She managed to get away with some doctors, give birth, and return with stitches as she had just had a C-section delivery and take out the rest of the Skrulls. Like, I'm all for girl power, but this is an impossible level of endurance. What is going on in these comics? Oh my goodness. I'm trying to think of all the pregnant women that I have known in my life, and I'm like, could you imagine? Although they're rage. They sometimes can rage like crazy, so maybe it could happen. Number 7. Glide. Many think that Spider-Woman can fly in the comics, which would be pretty cool, given that she doesn't have Spider-Man's famous web shooters. However, this is not true. She cannot fly. What she can do is glide. Glide, 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 glide. This power of gliding through the air looking like she is flying is granted by her suit design, and is still pretty cool all in all. all. She once had a fight with the Hornet in mid-air and kicked his butt, which he definitely deserved, by the way. Jessica Drew is the only Spider-Woman to have this design. Many different Spider-Women have come and gone after her, but while those other Spider-Women may have adopted the mantle, they all adopted pretty different suits. I think one of them had like webbing, but a lot of them have like legs coming out of them. It's creepy. I kinda like it though. Number 6. Psychic shields. Jessica had psychic shields implanted by S.H.I.E.L.D. and some strong ones too apparently. These shields allow her to resist attacks from 3-in-1, who once joined with Emma Frost in an attempt to take on a future alternate version of Jean Grey, and allowed her to resist an attack from Professor Xavier, which of course also surprised him, leaving her standing after many others were knocked down. Pretty impressive, Jess. Number 5. Plant instincts. Not sure if this comes from Bruce Banner or the Hulk himself, but Savage Hulk once displayed the instinctual knowledge of the healing property of plants, like just instinctually. When someone near him became injured, not only was he simply able to tell that her wound had become infected, but he was also able to sense which herbs might actually be used as medicine to help her by drawing the poison out of her body and her wound, binding her wound with them. I know a lot of people think of Savage Hulk as being, one of the least intelligent personas Hulk has, but I gotta say, this actually makes me feel kinda otherwise about him. I mean, I can't just instinctually tell what the properties of plants are, can you? I know some, but that's cause I learned it from reading in books. I guess while Savage Hulk might not be as big into books, it's perhaps his strong intuition and maybe a more raw connection with the nature around him that grants him this ability. Number 4. Power over Celestials. Back in the 90s, when Hulk was considered a Nexus being, Apocalypse surmised that Hulk could actually generate enough energy to even be able to control and rule over the Celestials themselves. Now for those unfamiliar, the Celestials are god-like gigantic alien beings from space who had a hand in the evolution of man, creating both the races of the Deviants and the Eternals as well. They usually travel across the cosmos, manipulating planets and experimenting on their inhabitants to create their own races of beings. They also have extremely advanced technology, which Apocalypse has used to augment himself and others. And it was while using this tech that he noticed the potential power Hulk could hold. He hoped to harness this energy for himself so that he might use it to bend the Celestials to his will upon their return to Earth. Number 3. Truly the strongest. While many know the Hulk is the strongest there is, I don't think everyone fully understands the scope of what that means. Hulk isn't just the strongest there is among other heroes or on planet Earth. He's believed literally to be the strongest humanoid being, with his maximum strength levels existing far beyond all others, and is also known as the most powerful mortal entity to have ever existed. So when he says Hulk is the strongest there is, this isn't just a fun catchphrase. He really does mean that, and it should be taken seriously, because when we're talking maximum strength levels, there's really no one else above, at least not in regards to his form. Like maybe something that is less tangible than Hulk would be at a greater power level, or something or someone based in mystic or cosmic realms of Marvel, but that's really about it, I'd say. Hulk is one of the strongest beings like in the multiverse. So number 2, stronger than even himself? If you think Hulk being one of the strongest beings in the multiverse according to Doctor Strange is wild, wait till you hear about this one. Hulk is also stronger than himself, apparently. When the leader attempts to beat the Hulk by kind of using his own strength against him, Hulk surprises him by miraculously beating him still. This apparently happens because Hulk's strength really has no limits, and he gets even more angry, which of course makes him even more powerful, allowing him to best even his own power when he goes up against it. Beating everyone else in the Marvel universe pretty much is one thing, but then also managing to best yourself on top of that, that's quite another accomplishment, I think, when you're someone as strong as the Hulk is. Number 1, overload vibranium. Some may already know about how Hulk can basically bust through adamantium, but what about vibranium? Well, as I said before, when we talk about Hulk, we're not just talking about the big green giant and Bruce Banner. There are multiple Hulk personas that reside within him, one of them being Devil Hulk. Devil Hulk has been shown to be vastly stronger than some of the other personas and can even overload vibranium, it appears. We see him in a fight against the Avengers in Immortal Hulk issue number 7, and he really just kind of tanks them all. Black Panther with all of his vibranium included. I definitely would never want to meet Devil Hulk. That guy's crazy. He's all too eager to embrace the nickname given to him when Thor calls him a devil, and Thor also says in terms of the power he's close to God tier. I wonder if this version of Hulk could also destroy Uru.